I think it's important to notice that over the last few years we've been very purposeful about getting in front of as many audiences as we can to deliver our message about the help we can provide around issues with sexual assault or sexual harassment or dating and domestic violence or stalking. So I don't think you can take from the uptick in numbers that necessarily means that there is an increase in incidents happening, as much as people feeling like they know where to go for help and they're willing to ask for it. I think it's one of the most important things we can do is to give someone a voice if they've had an experience like this. The reality is that historically most people kept this to themselves and didn't know where they could reach out for help. And I like the fact that we have a variety of different resources on campus and in the community to help people. So the reality is 80 to 90% of these cases happen between people who know each other. But I wouldn't call that a trend because that has always been true. Most of these things happen in terms of being an abuse of trust between two people or taking advantage of someone when they're in a vulnerable state rather than a stranger attack. Well, what we do is we go into every single freshman class, the GEP and UHC sections, to make sure that they know who we are and what resources we have available. But we always respond to requests from other groups, whether that be sororities and fraternities or other social groups or classes, and go speak to them about what we do in the Title IX office. Well, first of all, it's a federal mandate, so that explains it. But the reality is if it can have a negative effect on somebody's academic or extracurricular success here, it's important to have things in place so that people can continue to succeed in those ways and get the help they need. First of all, I encourage people to tell someone, because we have a lot of people here on campus who know what to do to offer help. Also, the majority of people you would tell here on campus have a duty to report this to my office. Now then, whether a person chooses to come in and speak with us or not is entirely their choice. But most people here are responsible employees who are obligated to report to us so that we can at least reach out and offer support or services. Like I tell audiences of freshmen that I speak to every day, there's easily 382 good answers to that question. But the reality is finding help is frightening because sometimes they're worried about how the person might react. Sometimes they're worried that they won't be believed. Sometimes the concern is they don't want anyone else to know about it. So that's about 4 or 5 examples, but there are many more because this is always an individual situation and people respond to it very differently. Before Title IX came into place and before institutions were so responsive to it, it ended up often being a situation where someone would just drop out of school. And there's so much we can do to make it even so that if 2 people are having a problem breaking up or had a difficult situation together, but it doesn't rise to the level of something where one of them needs to leave the school through a disciplinary matter, we have the ability to make arrangements so that they're no longer in the same class or they don't go to the same facility at the same time. There are so many resources we could put in place so that both students can continue to succeed. It's important for us to point out how many different ways there are to move forward and to make a person feel safe. But also remember, we don't exclusively deal with sexual assault. We deal with dating and domestic violence, stalking, people who have had a historical experience before they even got here and they're struggling with it, and we can offer resources for that. So our office handles a lot of different kinds of instances. It is fair to say that generationally, the issues that are prominent around sexual assault change. I would say that there has always been a large number of them. It is becoming, because of the Me Too movement and other things, more normal for people to come forward and ask for help. The 2 things that I think are very different for this generation are the social media communication, the constancy of it, even sharing locations with people, as well as this generation's exposure to pornography has had a tremendous effect on sexual assaults. We also try to educate around what a good bystander is in a situation like this. If you see 2 people who are walking away and they're both super intoxicated, or it just feels like one of them doesn't feel like that's a good plan, the best thing you can do is intervene and try to stop that from happening. And I try to point out that is not just the best thing you can do for someone who might be victimized. That is the best thing you can do for somebody who might be doing something that they will wish tomorrow they hadn't done. So having people be good bystanders in these situations is really critical as well.